Hi, everybody.
Hey
Hello.
everybody, welcome to Night Owl Sessions, our live discussion series. How you guys doing tonight?
We're good.
Very
Thanks.
Yeah.
good. Good to see you, Mark. Good to
Yep,
see
nice to see you
everyone.
too. Sorry, we're a little bit late tonight. We had some technical difficulties getting into the stream, but it seems like it's working now. So tonight we're gonna talk about everything paranormal, paranormal investigations, ghost hunting, and we're gonna be joined by my friends Michelle and Joe, who will be joining us any minute. Also, I think he might be having some trouble, but Joe and Michelle, they've been doing this for a long time, and I'll certainly let them get into that in a moment. We'll give Joe a few more minutes.
Yeah.
But
Mark,
until then, what's up?
you know, it's Mercury retrograde, and the eclipse was 2 days ago. So to have a Mercury retrograde and a total lunar eclipse, it's just
Yeah, I
it's
believe it. 'Cause things were charged up for me the last couple of days. Ever since that eclipse, it's been like real crazy for me. So I believe it. I believe in that stuff big time.
and
I'm
it
like,
was in Scorpio. It was in Scorpio. So there you go.
uh,
Yeah,
Yeah, wasn't it like a
wait,
super
Omar.
flower moon too? Like a super
yeah,
flower eclipse?
very powerful. Yeah.
It's like,
So
keep me home. Don't. My daughter and I are trying to look into properties. It's like not the time to be doing legal documents or anything. And she doesn't like get into any of that stuff. And I'm like, Elisa, we just need to take a chill right now. Plus, the market's
So it's
a
funny also.
nightmare. Like, just calm down.
It's funny also because my sister was supposed to have a baby on Monday, and they're like, "Nope, we're gonna do it before this moon," and they took her early.
Did they?
are you really
Mhm.
Wow.
Well, they say a lot of
nice?
women give birth. They give birth right when there's a full moon because of the gravity kind of has the effect on the
Well,
lady.
if we're 70% water and the moon can move the tides, what does it do for us?
Exactly. That's right.
You know, infants are born at 90%. And by the time we're 12, we're at 70. So,
Messes
Oh
with
my
our minds.
oh, God bless her. What'd she have?
She had a girl. Yeah, Saoirse. She named her Irish.
nice.
Everybody up. I lost you.
Saoirse.
I didn't hear.
Saoirse. It's a
All
girl.
right,
How
we got
beautiful.
Darlene's here joining us as well. Hi, Darlene. How you doing? I'm looking at I'm going to try to look at the chat section more this time because I get kind of carried
Okay.
away with everything else. So I got to pay attention to the chat section. And
Hey,
and we'll definitely be taking questions. As people come in, we'll be taking more and more information from the chat. So definitely feel free to leave questions, comments, all that good stuff.
Nicole, does Saoirse mean something, or is it like
Freedom.
a family? What's
Freedom. Freedom.
that? Freedom.
That's beautiful.
Neat. Yeah.
Beautiful. God bless.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get into it, Michelle. I know Joe is planning on joining us, but he'll have to jump in the middle here. But just kind of just give the viewers an idea what you do and what got you started with this.
Oh my gosh. How did I start with this? So like most of us that have our intuitive mediums, we noticed when we were children that we noticed things differently and perhaps thought everyone else saw things that way as well. As far as paranormal investigating, I've always been really sensitive to energies like a lot of us are, right? Because we're composed of energy. Everything just fell in my kitchen. I have my house. I kid you not. I just heard a bunch of stuff. My house is very active, and I'll literally sit in here and go back and forth with my EVP and talk to people.
Do you know if there's a woman in your house?
But it started a young woman who was having extreme difficulties in her home. And oftentimes when people are grieving, there's addiction involved, depression, things like that. So everything works on vibrational frequency. We're composed of energy, right? So it's important to keep our vibration high, but in life we can't help but grieve those that have passed, or addictions to not just drugs, to pornography and gambling, whatever. And there's always attachments involved to that because they're lower vibrational frequencies. So this case, I went up there and there was a lot going on in that house. I walked in, I saw some items. I'm like, that has to go. That has to go. That I like, just get it back, get rid of that. I worked that case for 3 months. There was definitely, I never jumped to the conclusion, and Joe will tell you the same thing, that you're dealing with demonic entities, because that's a huge jump. Some earthbounds can be very nasty. Some of them can be very sweet, and everything is not always worst case scenario. And sometimes places are haunted and they affect people, and sometimes people are haunted and they affect places. So this place was, I literally watched her, true story, I watched her get scratched across the stomach in front of me. So I carry a variety of tools. I look at, when I'm dealing with any kind of malevolent, I look at it like a lower vibrational frequency. So what am I going to do to raise that frequency? I have a lot of friends that are a lot of different cultures. They're everything. They're Wiccan, they're Catholic, they're Muslim, they're Jew, whatever, across the board, you name it. So Ganesh, Kuan Yin, I don't dismiss anything. I had my holy water with me, and I actually baptized her and her sister and her father. I make a batch. Sage is a great practice on a daily basis, but sage only works 2 hours. So when I see people say, we're going to cleanse the space, like on TV, and they like the sage, I'm like, it works, but it only works for 2 hours. So I'm really into vibrational frequency, because we're composed of energy. So I take a mortar and pestle, my mortar and pestle, and literally have a list. And I use the gums. I use resin. I use herbs. I use like fennel seed, catnip, rosebuds radiate at 350 megahertz. So, and I make one for paranormal investigations that has ingredients used in rites of exorcism that would be considered an antagonist to someone not up in battle, so to speak. So I brought that up there, and I smoked it out. I baptized them. She said they had a big team of guys come in, and you could feel the entity. It was in the laundry room, and it was dark and it was heavy. And I didn't jump to the conclusion that it was demonic. Investigations are very thorough. You investigate the property. You go into people's, records, who lived there before, who died there before, all that stuff. So a thorough investigation of the property was done. Questions to the people. Most of them are general. They're just general questions. And then you proceed from there. I went up there. I personally believe in everything, but I use Jesus Christ and the Holy and Divided Trinity, because when you talk about vibrational frequency, you're talking about the Christ consciousness, which is high, right? Prayer is high. Chants are high. The Buddhists use their chants. I just learned Latin. Latin is a higher vibrational frequency language. That's why they use it in the church. The words we speak are higher vibrational. I'll get back to the case and tell you what happened in a second. Just for an example, they say the universe is like a menu. So if you're driving your car and you say, this car sucks, the universe goes, oh, okay, the car sucks. And then, you're creating.
Really start fucking.
Yeah, you're throwing that negative energy, and the universe is responding to what you're saying and thinking. It even goes, it's scientifically proven through science that scents, words, and even the foods we eat were measured by frequency. So back to this case, they had a big team of guys come in. You could feel the chills run up your body. It was a very aggressive entity, and I get very hot. I don't know if that happens. If you ever feel like you're getting very hot and sweaty, that's your energy being drained, and you need to really pull up your hedge of protection.
Man, I get hot and sweaty all the time.
Yeah, you need to tell whatever's around you to back up. No, maybe,
Wow.
that's as intuitives, empaths, mediums, light workers, healers, whatever it is that anybody does. If you're feeling all of a sudden hot and sweaty, bad, like that's to me, has always been a direct attack on my energy field.
Yeah.
So,
Can I Can I ask a clarifying question real quickly? Because a lot of us draw on spirit as we're doing work. Can you differentiate between connecting to spirit versus feeling as though your energy is being drawn with body temperature?
When I connect with spirit, I'm very calm. People will say to me, "Oh, Michelle, you're so calm when you walk in the investigation." And I can feel my body temperature is cool. I work with my guardian angel a lot and the Christ consciousness. So I feel I can differentiate between spirit. I've done enough. Like I this one investigation Joe and I did, and I never get aggressive. I don't. Poor Joe's in there trying to there was vaginal scratching. There was a woman being held down. There was a lot going on there. I had investigated the house myself, caught some EVPs, did what I had to do, called Joe in. He knew exactly where to go. He temperatured the room. The room was at like 65 and I was like at 82, but I could feel the sweat. And I started to get aggressive. I'm like, you better back off. I didn't give you consent or permission to be in my energy. And I don't usually get like that. And then I realized this entity was intentionally trying to make me angry. And I didn't realize it till I reviewed the evidence. And Joe's all calm in there. And I'm like, rah. So I have to check myself on that. But the first case,
no, hold on a second, Michelle. This was your first case that you performed with Joe?
No, the first case was the Waterbury case. I went off track for a minute. The Waterbury case, I baptized them all. I used the highest vibrational frequency around. There's a series of tools that I used to raise the vibration. They were very into Jesus and the Blessed Mother. So I left them, we always leave directives afterward. And I left them a set of directives. And there was this one particular person in the house that had, and I don't judge, that had an addiction to crack cocaine and other things. And I don't judge, but I don't know why crack seems to bring in the darkest of the energies. That's just been my experience. So they asked that person to leave. They followed the directive. I came back up with follow-up visits. The house was getting lighter and lighter. I come back one day, she's there. And now she's not being real nice to me. And she looks at me and says, "You and your God can't do anything to save this family." And I'm like, "Oh, it's on, girlfriend." So I took out my holy water and and she wasn't happy about that. But
so you and I, we talked before about going back to the crack thing and like the drug addiction stuff. Like I feel like when people are being affected by a negative energy, spirit, demon, whatever you want to call it, all the above, I feel like doesn't it like cause a turmoil in one's life, and like drug addiction and alcoholism and any kind of addiction? It's like one of the things that energy is like pulling towards itself. It's like it's putting a person on that track, right? To kind of be a victim of some kind of dependency or something.
Some energies and entities will infiltrate so badly that they'll live vicariously through someone just to use drugs. I've seen it. And they don't call alcohol spirits for nothing. Some people get really violent when they drink, and that's not really who they are. And anyone who's deeply involved in drugs, that's not really who they are. That's them under the influence with it, to me, attachments of negative energy. I've pretty much seen it my whole life. Like literally have seen it my whole life.
Yeah. Ooh, real quick. I'm sorry. I'm trying to ask certain questions because I think, all right. So the Warrens, how did you end up linking up with the Warrens, and what was that experience like?
Wow. Okay. So many, many years ago, my best friend, who is now deceased, got a letter from jail, and her boyfriend had found someone that practiced serious black demonic Satanism. Took her picture, and it was the Baphomet drawn out in precise, exact, with all these little sigils and signals. I touched it and my whole body went da-da-da-da. We went down and saw the Warrens, and they took her personally to their house and then to the church down the street. My experience started with Lorraine Warren there. I'm from Trumbull, and I was working at the Monroe Diner, and I have a series of photos that one day I would like to share with all of you that are very unusual. They're beautiful. They're real. They'll be up on my website. And she came in the diner, and it was right after The Conjuring. And she's like, I'm so glad to be home. I'm tired. You know, she's a wonderful woman. So her grandson, Chris McKinnell, had started the Paranormal, Ed and Lorraine
Legacy Foundation, right?
For paranormal research. Thank you. I couldn't get it all going. So Joe had contacted me and said, how would you like, Chris is really good. Joe is very good friends with Chris and has a lot of Ed, is Ed stuff. So he contacted me, he said, Michelle, how would you like to be a part of this? I said, I'd love to. Worked a case in upstate New York with multiple suicides. The man actually filmed himself blowing his head off while calling in a demonic entity. This guy was the pillar of the community, never did drugs, a soccer coach, a hockey coach, separated from his wife for a couple months, had an excellent job, and all of a sudden he just started smoking crack and wound up blowing his head off.
That sounds like the perfect explanation for like possession, right? You're like being possessed by something. It just ruins your life instantly.
I actually dealt with someone over a period of a year that I met when I was 13. He left for the Navy when we were 18. He comes back approximately 30 years later, the same person, and I'm noticing changes in him, and I'm like, am I dealing with multiple personality disorder here, or am I dealing with someone that has multiple attachments? We would sit across from the table each other, and his eyes would change, and he literally looks at me one night and says, let's play devil's advocate. I'm like, let's go. It wasn't him. It wasn't multiple personalities, and we actually had to do, it wasn't a Catholic rite of exorcism, but it was an exorcism that lasted 6.5 hours. He had been horribly abused as a child, sexually, physically, and emotionally, which is called a generational curse. So that negative energy is thrust on them unfairly, and parts of his personality that he thought was himself were not himself. These attachments had rooted themselves around him so securely that all the negative things he was doing in his life and the negative behaviors and the negative feelings he had about himself were actually 90% attachments. And it took me and Michelle literally 6 hours we had to open a portal. We had to cross children and women. It was a lot. And I gave him directive. I have a lot of EVPs. I was going to play you that EVP from the house when I was sleeping. Nice. But I used to stay over there a lot and feel a lot of heavy energy and sweat so bad, like hot fire. I couldn't even be next to him. And I even went to the doctor and said, like, listen, I shouldn't be going through this right now. Like, I'm done with all that. And she ran blood work, and she's like, yeah, you are. And then I'm like, oh my God, it's his energy, like an investigation. But it took me, 3 or 4 months to figure it out. And that went on for like a year, capturing evidence and clearing out that house, and then finally getting him where he was exorcised down the shop. And he's doing better now. I gave him directives to follow. He did really good. And then he kind of fell off a little. I got disappointed. And I'm like, look, this is your life. You don't have this much room to mess around, because when you get rid of negative entities and energies, they'll go away. But sometimes a few of them will hang around just to see if you're going to slip up so they could jump back on. And if they can't get you through the normal, let's just say you were a drug addict. If they can't get you through drugs, here comes sex addiction or gambling or depression or whatever. Mm-hmm. They'll find any way to get you back down that they can. So he's doing good now. It wasn't multiple personality disorder. It was definitely multiple attachments. He had a lot of children around him that felt safe around him because he was an adult survivor of sexual and emotional and physical child abuse, and he had a lot of women around him. And we had to cross them all. And then we had to clear him up. And we looked like, by the time it was done, we looked like we were just walked out of a lake. Like someone just, we were so drained and tired, but it was worth it. And now
I can imagine like doing these for long hours probably takes a lot out of you.
no investigation, even an initial. I'll say I'm going to do an initial investigation to ask just like routine questions, get a feel for the house. What's going on? What do they have in the house? Are there plants alive? Are there animals good? Like these are things that you look at, right? Because that's frequency.
Wait. Okay. I sage, I speak to spirit. I think my house is pretty well high energy. We have our
I get it.
But for the life of me, I cannot grow my plants. They grow, they're there, but I can't keep them like my mom. Her plants are like flourishing, but she got a lot of drama in her life, and I'm sitting here like, I'm dying.
Let me digress on that. Let me digress. I have a lot of plants that are big and flourishing, whatever. Some people, I don't know why. I don't know if it's where the plants are. They just can't.
Because I talk to them,
You're doing all the right stuff.
Yeah, and I'm like sad about it because I'm like, just freaking grow.
You know what? They like friends. They do. They like friends because they do. They're a vibrational frequency too, and they carry an essence. So they like to be grouped together.
Okay.
So maybe put them together because it's important to them. And, when I look at plants, I'm looking at, that's a difference. You're not getting the plants to grow. These are plants that are grown and being neglected. And it's part of a whole picture, not just that.
Okay.
What pictures are hanging on the wall, and that kind of thing, a general overall for the house.
Okay.
When
you can't blame your bad gardening skills on the
I get so mad. I will buy random plants and I get so excited and they'll grow for a bit and I don't feel like I'm neglecting them. I just really don't know how to take care of them.
Yeah. No, there's some of them need direct sunlight, some of them need indirect sunlight, how often you water it. I mean, there's a million.
Just set them in one place. Water them. If you touch them and the dirt sticks to your finger, they're good. If you touch them and the dirt falls off, they need water. Put them together. They like to be together, and just leave them, and they'll. I bet you, they like.
I know a lady up in Pennsylvania. Through a friend of mine. One of her things is she likes to work with like the weather and plants. She's the type of person, she'll get like a leaf or like a stick and she'll stick it in a pot or in the ground and it will like flourish and turn into like a plant or a bush. Like she's got like a
be like that. I want to be that.
Yeah. That's like that's like a white witch. Those are, when I see people doing stuff like that, it means to me that they have like, they're connected with the earth, like elemental energies and stuff like that. And they're essentially a witch. Right.
I think that's my mom's energy. I'm telling you guys, because like I'm telling you, I go in her house and I'm just jealous. I'm like, how are all your plants growing? But she tends to them. She loves them.
I do. I walk up and talk to mine like they're like kids. I'm like, I'm so sorry, whatever. And I pull the little dead stuff off. And I'll even come up and put my fingers on them and say, I love you. You look so beautiful today. But I know that they do like to be together. Don't give up hope. They'll grow.
I'm going to play them high frequency music.
Real quick, I just want to get some action in from the chat room here. I'm seeing here from Patrick Brazier. He's saying he saw his first full-fledged shadow figure over the weekend or on the weekend. So definitely elaborate on that, Patrick. And since you brought up a good topic, shadow figures, I think, are something that are more common than people realize. It's like those late nights when you're up by yourself, or I'm sure other people will be around, but I've seen them most of the time when it's just me up at like 1 o'clock in the morning and you see something at the corner of the eye, but once you go look at it, it's gone, it disappears, there's nothing in sight. That's like the definition of like a shadow figure. Some believe it's an actual entity of some sort, and they just have the appearance of a shadow. I'm not sure what the truth is. What is your experience with that, Michelle?
My experience with shadow figures are that this is just my belief system. There are many realms of existence. So when we talk about shadow people, we could be talking about extraterrestrial entities. We could be talking about earthbounds. We could be talking about earthbounds, extraterrestrials, passerbys. I call them passerbys. They just pass by and they go. Unless there's activity, malevolent activity or negative activity going on, or someone's depressed or acting out of character, I think just a good cleansing and a whatever the person's specific belief system is, a mantra, a prayer, I wish you peace, blessings, that you find your highest and greatest good, you find your peace, and generally that'll go away. You know,
So
when
you think the power of prayer is more powerful than like earlier you were talking about sage, and using those kinds of materials?
It's a combination, because again, we're talking frequencies. So you take all of these tools, the higher vibrational frequency stuff on the charcoal, right? The prayers, all that stuff, the chanting, the mantras, you know.
I mean, that's what they do in the movies, right? When you watch The Exorcist, the guy's basically reciting like Latin from probably some special book, but I mean, you must have some kind of power.
I was speaking Latin at that case we went to together.
Well, I'll be honest, I'm sitting here surrounded by my shielding literature. I have Archangel Michael's sigil in Hebrew.
Excellent. Love that.
I have the Anabahoach from Kabbalah sitting next to me.
And
I have the Zohar next to me, because we're talking about really dark stuff. I mean, and the veils are super thin right now. I have had more spirit in my house the past week than I've ever had in my life. And it's good because I'm shielded, but I mean, you got to take precaution. I'm having this discussion about it. It is somewhat risky. And so
I've been saying this whole time.
Let's touch
Patrick, respond.
I want to go back to that. Don't forget, girls, because I have something to say. Go ahead,
I want to talk about that.
Yeah, we'll circle back to that for sure, because I mean, you got a very good point. Like when you have these eclipses events and these full moons, the veil does become quite thin, and it affects everybody differently. So real quick, Patrick is saying, so he'd gone to a funeral that day, and at night he was watching TV, and the movie cut to commercial, and there was a black moment on the screen, and the TV reflection, he saw a slender figure standing in the kitchen and walked off. Yeah, you must have shit your pants when you saw that, Patrick.
I wonder if you brought something from the funeral home.
That's what my first thought was, an attachment from the funeral home. And if he hasn't seen it again, I would just not pay attention to that and just let it go.
Say a prayer.
I can't remember where I was. It might have been with a different group, but I find that if you're having experiences, that a lot of these energies, they might not realize that you can see them. Right. So if you just ignore them, a lot of the times they're just going to probably do their thing and not know any different. Because you got to think, if you're like a spirit or ghost or anything, like you're probably walking around this plane and like seeing nobody can see you. Right. It's probably really hard for people to pick up on the energy and actually interact with them. So I feel like if you don't acknowledge them, they'll more often than not just kind of go their way. But if you start like talking to them and you make it known like you can see them and they know that you can see them, I think that's when shit gets real. Because there was a friend of ours, friend of the Night Owls, she was telling me about how she was seeing this entity, this spirit on the train often. And then, she was asking me, she's like, how do I know? Like, what should I do? And I told her, I was like, why don't you just reach out, say hi and communicate with it? Well, that was a big mistake, because she started communicating it and it wasn't communicating with it and it wasn't nice, and it followed her home and it started causing problems in her life. So what that tells me, you got to be careful about who you want to make it known to. If they do see you.
How does that work though? Because that's like me saying, okay, I see spirit. Is it just because I'm protecting? I'm surrounding myself in the white light that I'm hoping that
that's the difference between that's the difference between the work we do and like people who are seeing random spirits, because we're bringing in that white light of protection. We're making our intentions known that we only wish to interact with energies of a high vibration. We're trying to push out the dark shit. But if you're not in that mode and that's like that frame of mind, then we're magnets. We're like lights. Like in the dark.
Yeah, we are. We're beacons of light in the darkness. But
And the moths gravitate towards the flame.
I have to put a light on in a
Well,
minute. It got dark. But we
yeah,
just want to touch base. I just want to, because you were talking about your burning sage, this and that. Remember this, and I tell people this all the time. We're surrounded by more energy of protection and the truth of unconditional love. Those powers are stronger. And when you're a paranormal investigator and you have to go in and fight something that's never been human, the faith and no fear are here, because any fear will it's like feeding it like filet mignon and lobster tails. Like you just can't, you know. So
well, hey, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Michelle. Heidi was trying to say something a few minutes ago, and I cut her off.
I'm sorry, Heidi. Go ahead. I'm going to turn the light on.
Okay. No, but I believe strongly we all do things to shield and protect us. I do tons of angel rituals, so I know that, like with the train situation, my angels aren't going to let that near me. If something reaches out to me, I know that my angels have vetted them. And so that's a situation where I think we have to do so much daily groundwork, protection work, prayer, building that connection to spirit is so vital with the meditation every day. And I agree with you, Michelle. We are surrounded by, but it's a choice, right? It's a choice what we surround ourselves with. And so we have to keep the vibration high. And Mark introduced me to all of us actually, to an amazing teacher who taught us immediately that these energies work at a low vibration and they need to bring us down to even, work with us. Would you agree with that?
That the lower vibrations need to bring us to their level to work with them?
Right.
Well, that's why they're attached to us, right? Because
they're trying to not work with them, but to interact with them. I guess would be better wording.
I'm trying to put a light on. Hold on. I can't see in here.
Okay.
Wait a minute.
Don't you have a clapper?
No, I wish I did. I wish
you just aged yourself, sir.
I know, Mark. I'm older than you.
I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and I'm proud of it.
I grew up in the tail end of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. I'm done. No. Okay, so the question was, are the negative entities and energies trying to bring us to their level to communicate?
Yes.
Was that
interact? Yes. They need to bring our vibration down to their level.
No, they need to come to our level. That's what I feel. I won't go lower vibration. To me,
well, no, I'm not saying we want to. I'm saying they're trying to get us to by instilling fear.
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I'm not communicating it well, and it's
no.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. They'll do whatever they can to bring us down to their level. That's what they do. So if they're going to use the premise that I need help, can you lower it down? They're tricksters. Yeah, I call some of them tricksters. They're tricksters. They'll come in and they'll use, they'll say, "Oh, I'm your great aunt, whatever," and it's not the great aunt, whatever. And there's a lot of trickster energies. And it's funny that you had mentioned that the veil is thin. I had just had this conversation with somebody the other day. I have never seen the veil this thin ever in my life. And I feel like if people could see with their physical eyes, we're like shoulder to shoulder. And again, it's a choice. Do we choose to recognize these energies or not? And not all investigations are worst case scenario. Sometimes, I've had a lot of wonderful channeling sessions where if I go to read somebody, I remember I went to read somebody one time and I was shuffling the cards and I couldn't even get the cards going. And I saw what I thought was an Italian, dark skin. He was Dominican. Long story short, she was an LPN. He had a drug problem. Christmas Eve, they had gotten into an argument and he overdosed Christmas before Christmas Day. And he kept saying, I kept hearing no projects. And I said to her, this no project thing. And she said, it's so funny because when he was alive, he would say, please find someone worthy with no projects. I don't want you to worry about, if they're using or where they are. Find someone that's worthy of you. And it was a beautiful conversation, and it made me feel so good. So it's not always worst case scenario. It's sometimes people just want to stick around a little bit and make sure everybody's okay.
Well, that's why people when one of the biggest criticisms I get, especially from people who don't agree with, metaphysics, spirit, this type of work where you're working with a psychic or, mediumship or any of that stuff, they think that, we're being deceived, right? That's always the number one thing. They're saying it's against the church, the Bible, but the worst part is we're being deceived by the devil or something like that. I don't know. I mean, I guess I do understand that, yeah, something can try to trick us or mess with us, but I'm firm with my beliefs that I'm not allowing those things to get near me.
I've heard that. Like, I was brought up Russian Orthodox, right? Very strict Russian Orthodox Byzantine, but all the women in my family and even my granddaughter, they are what they are. It is what it is. And I always think to myself, the way I started hearing the voice of the divine was my house would get crazy. Like, I lived with my grandparents and my mother. I loved my mother, but she was an addict and an alcoholic. And when she drank, she got violent, and they would argue. So I would run out to the woods. And back then, which was a very long time ago, Trumbull was underdeveloped. So I would sit on this big, huge boulder and watch these beautiful lights bounce, which now I am very grateful I could capture on film. And I would hear a voice say to me, it's okay, Michelle. It's everything's going to be, like, literally a male voice. It's okay. Calm down, and I would sit there and for some reason, everything was so heightened. The colors of the trees, the wind blowing through them. I'm very, very connected to the earth. I'm a huge gardener. I like to sink my feet in dirt and sand in the woods. When I need to ground seriously, you will find me in the middle of a forest. Seriously, it's so healing. And a lot of times when I read people and they get that connect with nature, they don't take it serious enough because they want to hear the meat and bones about relationships or work or whatever. And I'm like, look, if you're being told to connect with nature, there's so much positive energy there. Listen to what it says. Drive by the beach for 20 minutes and sit in the sun and let the rays hit you and just think of nothing. Go to the woods. Do it if you can. If you can't, sit outside and let the sun hit your face. Just take a break from it all.
Yeah. That reminds me, you're talking about the woods. I had an experience about, maybe about a year and a half, maybe 2 years, recent experience with some kind of energy in the forest. And to this day, I really don't understand exactly what it was or, what I did wrong, but it got my attention. I was meeting up with my brother out in this like local swimming hole, and we were having a good time. It was a beautiful day. And we took a different way in, and my brother was telling me there's like a bunker or some kind of like hole in the ground. We're like a cellar or a basement of a building or something like that. But he was telling me about this, and of course I wanted to check it out. So not too long goes by, and I said I'm gonna go take a look at this thing you're mentioning, and it's literally just like a hole in the ground, but it like looks like a little like a hobbit hole or something.
Wow.
And as I'm going over there, I'm like looking in the hole, and I'm kind of like, I don't know, like 10 feet away from it. And as I'm glancing at it, I start trying to connect it, like to see if there's anything near it. And almost immediately I got stung by a bee. It like came out of left field and it's like stung the shit out of me. And I felt like it was a warning. Like as soon as it happened, I felt
Jeremiah was connected.
Yeah, like there was some kind of energy in there, whether it was an elemental or earthbound. I don't know what it was, but it told me to back off. I mean, it was almost instant when I was looking in there and thinking about, like I was almost imagining like a fairy energy or something.
I work
natural.
with elementals all the time.
Yeah, I know the pictures you took. You take some really good pictures of fairies, and I don't think people realize that this is a method. But if you get a candle and you let it burn, turn off the lights or get the right lighting, but blow it out, and almost immediately after you blow it out, start taking pictures of the smoke. that comes from like the candle.
You could do that, and I do a lot of incense photography, but you have to get the lighting just right. And if you get the lighting just right, spirit will use. I catch a lot of stuff. I will post a lot of my photography, or perhaps we could do something on it or whatever. I have a lot of pretty amazing photos. They're not made up. They're not edited. They are very
Doing angels and fairies.
Yeah, people.
It's pretty. I was pretty shocked when you told me about this at first. I was like, let's see what she's talking. And then I was actually shocked. I'm like, holy shit, that's a
Tinkerbell.
There's a picture. It legit looks like a smoked Tinkerbell. And I know that there's different, like going back to the paranormal side of things. I've seen reports of like this woman, her son died like young. It was like 18, and her son died, and she was cooking something on the stove, like boiling water. And then she just happened to take a picture or something, and her son's face was in the steam coming up.
I seen that today. You can see it's trippy. This is gonna sound weird. Okay.
They use it.
Yeah, they have to. And I've seen this as a kid. I remember seeing the man looked just like my grandpa, and he was driving down my block in the city. And I just remember being behind this guy and looking at him, and I was like, that's my grandpa. I followed this poor man all the way down the block, staring at him like this, like, grandpa. It was not him, but it looked just like my grandpa. And today I was in my room, and we have a TV in there, and so you can see like the reflection of if it's off, like a room or whatever. Right. And I could see, and this is the trippiest part, I haven't told my mom and them yet. I could see my grandpa's face when what I remember him to be, because I know they come in younger and all that, but I know my family likes to show me what I remember. And I was staring in this TV like, oh shit. Like, I'm not scared. It's my grandpa, but I'm like, you do like this, like you're confused. Like, is this real? Is this not? And I'm looking, and I could see his outline in his face. So I think they can manipulate certain things, or, you could get a glimpse and all that. It's very real.
They do manipulate. I've done a lot of incense photography. I catch so much stuff in the clouds, in water. I will share those with you, but it's funny that you should mention your grandfather, because one day I was walking down the street about 14 years ago, and I was saying my prayers and whatever, and I talk to Jesus. I'll just put it out there. I do. And I heard, Michelle, I'm with you all the time, but you're also surrounded by a lot of unconditional loving essences that you could talk to as well. Because I'm like, I'm sorry, I talk to you all the time. Like, I must be a pain, right? And actually heard a laugh, and no, you're surrounded by a lot of unconditional loving energies. And at that time, I took my cell phone camera, looked up at the clouds, snapped a picture, sent it to my cousin, and my cousin went, oh my God, that's Grandpa, who is like my guardian angel. He died when I was 12. And we were like this. He used to wear, my grandmother used to get mad at him because he used to wear like this Chinese hat, like orange, to block the sun in the yard. He had the Chinese hat on, the glasses, and he even had a cigarette. He wasn't supposed to smoke because he had a heart attack. The cigarette and the smoke coming out of his mouth. And that was the very,
I felt grandpa energy behind you, and a grandma. I had asked when we first got on if you knew that there was a woman in your house. There's a woman energy in your house too.
Yeah, there's more than one. What are you thinking?
You have lots of spirit behind you. A lot of spirit behind you.
Somebody actually looked at me once who's well renowned and branded and very good, like all of you, and she literally looked at me, and the first words out of her mouth were, dude, you're surrounded by a shit ton of dead people. I said, yeah. I can't even talk on a Bluetooth. I'm not kidding. If I get on the phone with somebody and I'm talking on a Bluetooth, I literally have to say, can everybody be quiet for a minute while I listen to this conversation? Sometimes it depends on who I'm talking to, but it's a good 75% of the time. Yeah, I'm glad you sensed female energy. I know that there's a woman in my apartment. I actually know her name. And there's an older woman. There's an older woman named Martha that passed away next door, and a younger woman named Laura that I actually communicate with through EVPs in my room, in the
Yeah, so when we first got on it to younger, and then as the time has been going, an older woman steps in. But I do feel like a grandma, so this could be the older woman or your grandmother's energy.
I
And
would
then
love that.
also, what'd you
I'm
say?
sorry. I would love that because I feel like when my grandmother passed and we're all sensitive, my cousin called me and like, where's grandma? I'm like, I don't know. You tell me where's grandma. Like none of us could sense her for the longest time. And then we both had a dream that the angels had put her to sleep. Our backyard was big stone chairs and they literally had her on a slab and they had to wake her up. So if
Yeah,
you're
no,
sensing
she's
grandma,
there. I
that
feel a
makes me
grandma
so
energy
good.
like connected to you, and then grandpa. Because when I was, let me see if I still have the paper. Can you see this paper?
Hold on.
Right here, I'm writing grandma with purple hearts and like.
Oh my God, that makes me feel. We named my granddaughter after her, and I think she's so happy about that.
Yeah, like I was just doodling while I was staring at you, listening to you, and your grandmother's energy was coming in. And then I'm telling you, a man stepped in and said, he's a grandpa. And then he showed me my grandpa, and that's why I shared the story. So this is cool. This is how spirit wants to give validations that your loved ones are with you. And you don't have to think, grandma's, they woke her up.
Thank you for that. And my grandfather has been my guardian angel, like literally since he passed. I've had so many incidences and we've all been through stuff in life, and I've literally dreamt of him. And when my both daughters were born, I turned to the side, half asleep and half awake, and he was standing over my first daughter, who was born in 89, and said, Michelle, she's beautiful. I said, Grandpa,
Yeah.
please, can you stay? And he's like, I'm sorry. He called me pal. I'm sorry, pal, I have to go. My second daughter was born, same thing. Michelle, she's so beautiful. I'm like, please, could you just please stay for 5 minutes? And then when my cousin had her baby, he came dressed in a golfing. He never golfed. I guess he's golfing on the other side now. But thank you. That makes me feel really, really good.
Good.
Really
Yeah, because I was staring the whole time, especially when you had the light off. I was like, ooh, I'm getting the chills. And Nicole's like, I'm getting them too. And I'm staring at you, and I could just feel grandpa's energy strongly. So
thank you. And thank you. And you know what? When I write notes to my granddaughter and my daughters, I draw purple hearts and flowers.
There you go. Because I'm drawing these hearts.
Between me and Callie, my granddaughter, those are them. And I make one for each of us, and I have a purple pen, and that's what I use. And then I draw like sunflowers. I draw the hearts, and then I draw a flower for each of us.
There you go. That's from grandma. So that's your grandma's validation. So
hey, Michelle, this is turning into a little bit of a reading for you, but I feel like I have to tell you something too. When you're doing your photography, have you ever tried to turn the picture where the light is dark and the dark is light and like inverse it? Because I feel like you're going to see even so much more. So even looking up in the clouds where you just change the color and you just inverse it. So all the light becomes dark and the dark becomes light, and you're going to see so many more beautiful pictures.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, you got to put it like an editor, like a photo editor, and you can basically it's like a negative. You do the complete opposite.
I used to turn things into negatives, and I stopped. Sometimes I don't ever change what's captured, but sometimes I'll edit the brightness, the saturation, whatever, to bring out the form of a face more or something.
Oh, absolutely.
Thank you for that. I will definitely do that. Definitely.
Cool.
So Michelle, go ahead. Go ahead,
no, I was going to say, they said that they could see white lines all around you as well when you had the lights off. So people are sensing a lot of activity around you. So that's very cool. I want to say something about the elementals, though. I don't know if they are. I don't know what this thing was. I had told Mark this story a long time ago. Maybe, well, it wasn't a long time ago, a couple months ago. That we got a new puppy, long story short, and I had him in my room like a little baby in his crib, all that, loving on him. And he woke me up like a baby, and I looked in my doorway, and I always see spirit, I see angels, I see whatever's walking past me, whatever. And I seen, and people that are watching right now don't think I'm crazy because it's real, okay?
It is real. Go.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
But I seen what looked sort of, it wasn't exact, like that Dobby Dobby thing from Harry Potter to an extent. It wasn't exactly like that. It was it looked like a little scraggly troll.
And you know what? That might be okay. Let people watching don't think we're crazy. that might be affecting your plants.
I'll kick him the hell out because I told Mark,
Yeah.
Mark's like, no, don't be scared. And I'm like, I mean, my eyes were open and this thing was in my doorway and its hands were dangling like this. And he was looking and he looked at the dog and I looked at it like, what are you going to do? And then I was like, okay, go away. Because I see shit all the time. So I was like, just go away.
Yeah, just go.
He's like, step. Nobody steps to Dobie.
Shit, not in this house. Dobie got the wrong house. He knocked on the wrong door today. Okay.
Yeah, tell him
Gonna
goodbye.
chase him out of Chicago.
I actually have a picture of standing on the side of one of my plants. He's got a tail coming up from the back and like a real cute face. And then if you ever see mushrooms growing in your plants, that's a sign of elementals. And if you look into European lore, like English, Scottish are huge, and the Irish are huge.
Yeah, I'm Irish.
Fuck. Are you? Yeah, they're big on they call them their good neighbors. And they
he told me not to be scared because I was like, wait. I see aliens, I see dead people, I see
the main reason why though, like if anybody's seeing anything, even if let's say there's like the most bloodthirsty, evil son of a bitch demon you ever heard of, even if something like that was standing in front of you, once you start being fearful, you're giving it all the power it needs to have control over you and have an effect on you. So that's why, like, my little secret weapon for me is there's times where I'm like either outside or somewhere where I get the heebie-jeebies. I'm certainly not, invincible. I'll get the heebie-jeebies, and that's when I usually call upon like whatever like an army or like a gang of all these various
posse.
My posse, basically like my angel posse, so that it gives you comfort and you're not going to like buy into the fear of that situation. That's why I would say to anybody who sees an apparition or a ghost in their home, don't be scared. If anything, like imagine yourself with a gang and you're going to go beat the shit out of that ghost. Now it might be a friendly ghost, so you don't want to go kick Casper's ass. Yeah, right. You want to be nice to Grandma and Casper.
Grandma's ass in the corner.
Yeah. So you don't want to beat them all up. But if there's something in there that's making you feel uneasy, absolutely do what makes you feel natural and protect yourself.
What helps me in investigations, I won't get fearful because I feel like I'm defending it. And when there's children involved, I really get like, this is hitting home hard.
Yeah.
What's
the scariest shit you've seen?
I go in whistling, humming, singing, like all the old classics, I'm not in there singing Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath, I'm in there singing something higher vibrational and whistling. I always do that.
Well, that'll piss them off, right? Sometimes if you go in there with a high vibe and acting all carefree and joking around, you'll get a response. You'll basically entice a response from the spirit that you're trying to investigate, right? Because if you're going to do an investigation and nothing's happening, it's kind of hard to investigate. So you don't want to be disrespectful, but you want to kind of get under its skin if you can, right?
Yes, and a lot of times, I wish Joe was here. We were doing this investigation in Derby, and we had our EMF detectors going, and we were up against a demonic entity. There was a young man involved that was literally talking to this thing. Why Joe and I were there, he wasn't home first. And Joe said, I have a feeling this thing's playing games with us. It's here, it's gone. It's here, it's gone. Sure enough, the kid comes home and they call from outside and they're like, can we come in? And we're like, yeah, you could come in. I want to make sure I word this correctly. He was infiltrated. There's phases of possession. So like he was definitely infiltrated big time, because he had the nerve to come in after Joe and I were like, whatever, and stand there and go walk into the kitchen while we've got his girlfriend in there who's bruised up in her private areas, and she's got a son that's little, that's experiencing crazy things, and had lost a son, an older son. So he goes in the kitchen, he starts talking to this thing. And Joe turns around and says, excuse me, what are you doing? And you hear him say to this thing, come on, I thought you were going to be a badass and show yourself in front of everybody tonight.
Yeah.
And I said, get your butt in here and sit down. I said, sit here and knock that off, because nobody cares. We're here to clear that thing out. After everything we did,
That's cool.
we left. She was so grateful. And the next day he stood in the middle of the living room and called everything back in again.
Yeah.
There's weirdos that want that. Like, I know somebody that I felt strongly that their significant other was calling in that energy, doing stuff with the mirrors and wanting to see that stuff. And so I've always been like, nope, not for me. Walk away. I'm one of those people. And I could sense it right away if I feel like somebody's playing with some weird shit, because I won't. Like, I'll watch scary movies around Halloween and that's it. I don't have time for it outside of there. It's whack. It's stupid.
Yeah, you could see it in people's faces too. When people are vibing low, they often look drained. They have a negative air about them. You could say, oh, what a beautiful day. Yeah, but it's 90 degrees. Like, it's just like, no matter what you say.
What the heat?
you know, and when it's winter, it's like, oh, the snow looks so beautiful falling. It's so peaceful and quiet, but it's got to be shoveled and it's freezing. It's like, yeah, those are factors, and it's true. But often people that are under a very serious spiritual attack, it will show here. They get the big black dark bags under here, and they just look you're all fine. They look tired and they look drained. And then you'll start noticing abnormalities in their personality. They'll start maybe becoming a little more aggressive, a little more combative. It's very subtle at first.
So that's kind of like the guy so recently, I mean, I'm not going to say names or places or anything like that, but recently I joined Michelle, Joe, and a friend of theirs, Diane, on an investigation, not too far from here. And there was a guy there who's the sweetest guy. Like, I was expecting something completely different personality wise than what we experienced there. I mean, when you hear all the stories of what was going on, the guy sounded like he had like a mean streak in him, like a history of violence, like that kind of person. Like, when I was going in there, I was fully prepared to be dealing with somebody who had a potential of being violent and crazy, because of what was going on in that home. And then when I met him, he was like the sweetest most guy. Gentle energy. And I felt guilty about having those feelings going into the house, because he was that nice and that gentle of a soul. But I guess that's what it does, right? I mean, when he was under the influence, he was a different person completely.
I literally, the woman in the house, I don't want to mention relationships or whatever, because I have no disclosures out, but the woman in the house called me and said he's getting very, very violent with me. And when I was in the basement, the first time I had gone myself, I had conducted a series of EVPs, and I picked up a male voice very strongly. I'm not going to say the name, so let's just say his name was John, which it wasn't. When he was in this state, becoming very violent with the woman in the house, she put me on speaker and I went, John. And he went, oh, all right. You want to do that? You want to play that game? This was not this guy's personality, not to mention that, how do we say this? I'm being very careful here. He had issues speaking verbally and getting his thought process from his mind to verbalize. That was a big issue. So for him to be able to even speak a clear sentence
was kind of eerie.
Wrong, like boom, 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 boom. I was like, oh no, that's not him, because he would talk very gentle and his words were spaced, right, Mark?
Oh yeah. He definitely had some cognitive interference there. And if he was talking in a different voice and a different tempo and a different speed, I mean, that's a clear indication that there's something going on there.
When I addressed him in that different name and I heard him get combative, I was like, wow. You know, that, and I caught the EVPs in the basement, and they were some of them are so into what's going on in our daily lives. I was there on a Wednesday, and I said, I'll be back with a team. And I have an EVP of this guy going, Monday? Like, are you coming back Monday? I was like, oh my God, you know, but I feel it's what we choose to pay attention to, what our belief systems are. And the veil, again, touching on that again. I have had this conversation. I think Heidi brought it up, one of you, that the veil is very thin. I have never seen it this thin ever. I don't know why so many souls are what I call earthbound, or why they're in another level of frequency. I sometimes people will literally say, am I dead? And I'm like, no, you're not dead. You can't die. You're composed of energy. You're just not in the reality that you were in before. And then I'll say, think of when you were here. Think of what brought joy and love and happiness to your heart. What made you so happy? Who did you love? You know, what made you feel good? Forgive yourself, forgive others, start to elevate yourself up. And then sometimes I'll get like, purgatory, I'm dark, it's cold. And that's when I literally will come out with prayers for the dead, for people, like, you know, I would pray for people like that, because
help move them along to the light, right? You want them to not be stuck.
I think purgatory, I'm trying to figure out purgatory, and I had to ask someone about it. And this is how they stated it to me. And they said, did you ever watch Supernatural? And I'm like, yeah, right, of course. When they go to purgatory and everything's in that Sephora, that light, you know, that filter, it's like a grayish, it's not black and white, but it's like a bluish white. And in order to get out of purgatory, you have to forgive yourself, and you have to do penance according to some religions and specific belief systems. So I always tell people, when they say it's cold, it's dark, forgive yourself for whatever you did. And some people will come back, and I'll pray, and they'll say, amen, thank you. And some people will say, no, I don't want to. And that's when I know I'm dealing with something, you know, that's
so you can distinguish between them.
Yeah, no, I don't want to. I literally went back and forth. I forget if it was here or somewhere else. And the entity, it was a guy, and I said, I'm going to pray for you. I have it all recorded. And he literally said, why would you do that for me? And I said, because that's who I am as a person. And he did not want to accept joy or happiness or move on or any of that. He was very comfortable being unhappy, but I still prayed for him anyway.
Yeah,
of course.
No, that's all you
the right
can
thing to do. That's the right thing to do. Yeah, I want to go around the room here and just quickly, what was we'll start with you, Michelle. What was I'm assuming you've seen a full body apparition. Of course you have, right? What's the most frightening experience you've had in that regard? I feel like with the paranormal stuff, people want to get to the juicy shit, and this right here, like, they want to know about.
I have to come in here. My best frightening experience I've ever had was actually not on an investigation, believe it or not. I've never had anything follow me home. But remember, I told you I worked that investigation with the multiple personalities, and I caught the EVPs, that we had to exorcise that person. I would not sleep at night because I was up all night praying over this person and gathering evidence. So I would sleep when the sun came up. I fell asleep on the bed in full sun, and I feel two hands rocking me. I was on my side rocking me. I went, hey, knock it off. I'm trying to sleep. And then I realized, I thought in my head, I'm going to call out to Jesus. And before I could call out to Jesus, it was an immediate release. I go on my other side, and I feel rock, 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 and I could feel the hands. And I'm like, I'm going to call out to Jesus. And before I could call out to Jesus, they released. That wasn't really scary. I'm going to tell you what kind of rattled me a little bit.
Check out these comments to the right, on the right-hand side.
We're
of the
asked to
screen.
be doing this case down in Bridgeport. Oh,
Look at these comments. They're like seeing stuff in my windows.
Yeah,
I
there's
don't
so
have my
many.
glasses on.
Darlene Hughes was saying earlier when I was reading it, she's saying she feels like she's connecting with you.
Sorry, Michelle, but you're talking about the scariest moment, and they're writing all of this. I'm like, I don't feel the spirit. So I hope it's not a real person.
She's saying that she feels.
There's a female angel behind her.
So then that's what Darlene's picking up, because she says she feels like a female.
There's a female angel. I was going to bring up.
I can't
when it was
see.
my turn, I was going to bring up some stuff.
Maybe
there's two different people. Darlene's seeing stuff behind you. Anthony's calling about a window.
That's so funny. They're messing about the window. Awesome.
Yeah.
I don't feel the spirit, so I'm wondering. I hope it's not real, like an actual person.
It's okay.
Well, like you heard earlier in the session,
and tell him to go.
Earlier in the session, that one, I think it was Patrick. He said he saw a shadow person in the reflection of a television screen. So hell, someone might be seeing something reflection of your window.
You guys all
well, yeah, I think you can, but I don't feel anything dark or heavy. She just feels that there's somebody with you.
I don't feel anything dark around you at all. At all. The second most. Well, this was the most terrifying. So this case in Bridgeport, I'm going to try to bullet point it. There are locations where there's a hierarchy to everything, like the angels. You've got the principalities, the seraphim.
Funny, Anthony.
You've got the hierarchy, right? Okay. And negative energies, you have the same thing. And I refer to it as the military. Okay. You've got soldiers and then the high ranking, and then it goes up all the way. So we were asked to do this place in Bridgeport, and I never tap out of a case. I don't ever. I live alone, and I fell asleep one night, and on this wrist, I have a Byzantine Russian cross. It's right here. I wear my mother's scapulars. I fall asleep, and it's myself, Joe, who was supposed to be here, and our friend Diane was supposed to do this investigation. In the dream, get pulled in by this wrist, and it was just like something off a movie. A hooded figure, no face, robe, long fingernail, calcified, filed to a point, starts carving in my wrist, and I could see the blood coming up, and it burned, but I wanted to see what was writing in my wrist, right? This place has a reputation of a lot of people dying from drug overdoses and murders. And from here all the way up to here. And the blood was rising in my dream, and I could feel it burning, but I was reading it, and I remember in parentheses the number 86. 86 in the paranormal world means stay away. Like when you're in a restaurant, 86 that you throw it out, 86. There were gang tags. There were names as well. So I walked downstairs, and there's a gentleman standing there in the sunshine on me. He said, "Will you please talk to me?" And I remember a young man, and I said, "Yes, I will. I will talk to you." These two young girls come out, a young black girl and a young white girl, literally from the houses off Boston Avenue. And they said, "Will you talk to us too?" I said, "I promise I will talk to you as soon as I talk to him." And he was going up the hill. And she said, "You're not going to be able to find us again." And I said, "I promise I will find you again." At this point, my wrist, where it had been carved, I could start to feel in real time. It was burnt. Dream, I put my like this to hold it because it hurt, and the blood was rising, like when a cat scratches you bad and you don't bleed, but it comes up. So I woke up because it was burning, and now they want to go down and do this case. Here's my thing. Can Joe handle it? Yeah. Can we handle it? Yeah. If it was one unit or a house, stationary. This is a command center. We're high-ranking military all the way up to the top. It's not a regular investigation. It's a war zone. You could see the negativity just hanging over that place. And I said, look, they're determined to go down there. And I said, look, I'm tapping out. Boom, boom. And my friend Diane said, you've never tapped out of a case. I said, it's not that I don't think we could handle it. It's just, it would take each of you 20 Joes. Like it's a, and I feel like in certain areas where there's high drugs, high addiction areas, prostitution, whatever, that low vibe stuff, people are doing whatever for money. They're feeding on all that, and people are dying on a daily basis. So you've got grieving people addicted to drugs, which is like the perfect storm.
Yeah.
Is
Hey, Michelle, I think
the command center.
Do
I
you
feel
guys
like
know this Anthony guy?
I'm not sure. Michelle, I think you moved your computer further
I
away
wasn't
from your router because
No.
it keeps freezing.
No, I just plugged it in.
You plugged it in? Okay.
A long time ago.
All right. Yeah, Bridgeport's kind of an interesting place because I mean it doesn't sound very safe from like an investigation perspective, like the energies you're probably dealing with there are heavy duty, but also from like a physical, like Bridgeport's a rough city in Connecticut, probably one of the roughest in Connecticut, if not the roughest. And
now you're
I froze.
You did, but you're not now.
Okay.
Now Heidi's good. Colleen's frozen.
Yeah, so Bridgeport can be tough. I've never done an investigation there myself, but I'm sure one day I would definitely be down. Heidi, have you ever seen a full body apparition and any kind of experience you want to share?
Well, my first one was, when I was like 5, when I saw the apparition on my sister's bed stand up and look down at me, and it was just a Native American woman. It shut off my abilities. I got so freaking scared. It shut off my abilities, but I grew up in a haunted house, things sitting next to me, things touching me. I mean, all kinds of stuff. And then, but I've seen other things. And as you guys have helped my abilities reopen, when I work and the more I connect with the spirit, accurate I get in the reading, the more it seems like the spirit shows itself and steps forward. But I'll tell you something, Mark, the scariest thing that ever happened to me on all this was that night when we talked about the Gabby Petito case and the evil energy behind that. And my house turned into a freaking spiritual warfare. My daughter and I got locked out of my house. And
That's like the paranormal activity kind of stuff.
And my angels were battling something because I had something where I had, after we did it, remember my power went out during the discussion.
Yep.
And then that night,
I
woke up.
That's crazy.
I woke up. They were protecting me. Whatever was trying to get through the technology. I think there's something to the technology with all of this. Like you have to be super careful. I was sleeping and I woke up paralyzed and I heard a growl in my ear and I just started reciting the Lord's Prayer because I'm super turbo Christian, right? Studying Kabbalah, everything. Jesus is my guy. He's with me in every meditation. And I was paralyzed and I heard the growl and I just started saying the Lord's Prayer until I could get it out. I said it in my head until I was released and I could get it out. And then that night, Eleanor and I were locked out of the house when we shouldn't have been. I didn't lock the door. The door got locked. I'm absolutely convinced that there was a battle going on in this house between my guardian angels. And so this shit is no joke. You know what I mean? Like, and Michelle, and when we get to the end of it, I'd really love to hear 2 things. Number 1, what you do to make sure nothing follows you home. And number 2, what you advise people and what you advise others to do so they don't attract this energy into their lives. So I know we have to go around the room, but anyway, Mark, that's my answer. So it's
nice. Yeah. Well, that sounds pretty crazy just to have all those things occur. You have no idea what's causing it at that point. You have no other choice but to pray to Jesus. You want to get protected, it sounds like.
But that's why you ramp up. That's why I ramped up my shielding. I mean,
Yeah.
between the Zohar and my angel sigils and my daily practice, nothing's getting back in here because I've got 3 precious souls that I need to be guarding. So
Absolutely. If they can't get to you, they'll definitely get to the kid.
Just
What's that?
believe it.
Yeah,
Believe
no, I
in
believe
your
it.
heart. Believe it solely and strongly.
Well,
don't waver on that.
I was pissed when that happened to me that night. I got really angry because I was like, "Oh hell no, you should not be here. Get the F out." And so that's not cool. And so anyway, so
That I get it.
What you got, Colleen?
So Colleen,
I have. I mean, you got all.
I know you got some crazy UFOs, alien stuff. I've heard some really crazy alien stuff from you, but have you seen like a apparition or a ghost before?
I would love to hear that.
I've encountered an extraterrestrial, which at first I thought I was just batshit crazy, and
This is crazy.
Psychic mediums have confirmed it's very real. But that's a different story because these people are already going to be like, "What the hell?"
Yeah.
But ever since I was a teen, I would see what I would call a ghost, and it was random at every house I lived at because they say, "Well, they're just in the house," and I'd be like, "Okay, they're in this house." I didn't notice sage or anything, but it was somebody different each time. And I remember at first it was an old man when I lived in Chicago and all that, and I was a teenager, and all I remember is waking up and looking, like getting up. The room was dark, and they look like, they're human form, but they have to me, they look like this glowy, greeny, creamy, weird color. And I ran through him because I was like, I don't know who the hell this is. That happened. I had instances when I lived on the South Side, and literally this man kept coming into my house. I literally walked because I had 2 babies at the time, and my second baby was crying. And I remember I walked into the dining room, and he literally was sitting on my couch. I thought it was my brother-in-law, my younger brother-in-law, because he was tall and skinny, and that's when he finally sprouted up. And I just remember looking at this man, and he had his arms crossed. He was tall, light skin, brown hair on his head. And he's like, he was mad. And he just told me, well, make sure you get the other one. Cause I was just going in there for the baby. So I grabbed both of them, put them in the room. And I literally was like, oh my God, something's following me. I seen him in North Carolina. I seen him here. I've seen him multiple times. One time I woke up and I started screaming bloody murder because I looked over and he was laying into my husband's body, laying into his body. And my husband couldn't get up. He was like, what the hell? So I've seen this apparition, I don't know what the hell he was. But the one that I can say, because that freaked me out because it touched my husband. It was talking to me. The one that really freaked me out was I was at my cousin's house, and I used to tease her when we were kids. I was like, your house is haunted. You got this guy in the basement. I would try to scare her because we would sleep over and everything, have sleepovers. So I would end up scaring myself, long story short. And so she had this one type of party where they sell stuff, and we were looking at the stuff, and I looked, and opens her bathroom door is open, and I saw this man stick his head like this out, and it's only women in this house. There was 7 of us. I threw my chair back because I was this way to the door, and I was like, oh my God, to my cousin, we need to get out of here. There's a man in here. And she's like, Colleen, stop. I was like, there's a man in your bathroom. And ever since I was a kid, I'd be scared to go in her bathroom. There's something there. So one of my cousins, he's a cop. He came in, he checked the house. He's like, there's nothing there, kid. You're stop it. I shit you not. Within that week, I was woken up. I don't know what time of day. This man that what I seen at the bathroom door opened my eye, my right eye. He lifted my eye open. His eye was to me like this. Now I'm sleeping, so I'm sorry, I'm gonna look weird, but I'm literally like this, and I'm thinking it's my kids or my husband being weird. And I see a brown eye right here. And I went, what the? And he went like this. And I'm like, who the fuck are you? Who are you? The same man that I seen at my cousin's house. So he could touch me. They can touch you. I don't know why people try to say they can't. He lifted my eye open to wake me up. So I've had a bunch, but that was the freakiest because he actually lifted my eye. he was like standing there, and I just like, I mean, again, I screamed because I don't know what else to do. I mean, this is new to me, so.
I have a
Yeah.
question for you after we go around the room, because that might be an attachment to you from a past life, because I know someone else that had one. That followed them, still follows them,
This man followed me everywhere. He has followed me.
but got to a point where they're not interfering in their.
Yeah, he doesn't bother me no more. I think he finally, I don't know why he was here, to be honest, because I remember we went to a card reader and she's like, oh, he's somebody reincarnated or something. Like, he's not reincarnated. He's spirit. He's a ghost. Like, she was giving us all this stuff. He was angry. He told me to get my kid. I seen him trying to get into my husband's body. I seen him in the house. I would have attacks. You know, when you have that sleep paralysis, I would have it all the time, and I would see him right there. The other man, I could describe him. He was like short, light skinned Hispanic. He had a mustache. He had a baseball hat on. That was from my cousin's house. The other man, he's followed me to North Carolina. My daughter, she's 16 now, but she would literally stare out the window and point and be like, there's a man down there. So I've seen him every which way. So I don't know.
There's a cord attachment. I feel like you don't see him now, but for you to see the same person, there's an energy attachment there from somewhere.
And he was handsome. Like, I don't know how this was. Like, I don't know if he was my man's or something. I don't know, brother. I don't know. Yeah, he wasn't scary looking. It's just, I literally was like, how, who? Because he looked so real. He wasn't pixelated or anything. He looked, when he was sitting on that couch, he looked like a man sitting on my couch, just like hanging out.
Wow.
Yeah, and that was before I opened up and knew all that. But the major one is the eye. And then I seen a loved one 3 times walk in and out of my house. They woke me up. They tapped my leg to wake me up. And instead of me, like, because this is not somebody I would ever be scared of. So instead of me sitting there, like, just saying, oh my God, holy shit, it's you, I like screamed and I scared him. I don't know anybody who could scare a spirit besides me, because he taps my leg and I hear like, Kyle, like, wake up. And I look and I went, oh shit. It is my cousin Justin. I went, Justin? And he literally went like, because I screamed it so loud, he went like, what are you doing? And that was it. He was gone. So I've seen many, and I know they're real. And, you know, again, I don't call in anything dark. I'm always trying to stay in the light. But in reality, things happen. Things can attach to you, you know? So you just have to, again, like Heidi said, like, learn how to cleanse, protect yourself and all that. But I'll let Nicole go, because if not, I'll keep going.
What are we doing? Talking about scary experiences?
If you've ever seen a full body apparition,
It's all interesting.
if you've ever seen a full body apparition, and share one that in particularly was.
Do you want you want to know the one that I saw first, like of my whole life?
Whatever one you feel most compelled to share.
Okay. So the very first one I think that I probably would have remembered seeing, I was probably around 10 years old, and I was on vacation in Florida with my entire family. Now, we have a very large family, and my aunt came, my uncle came, and there's about 15 people sleeping in a larger hotel room, but a hotel room, kids all over the place. I was older than that. I was like 13 or 14. And I was sitting on the couch, sleeping on the couch because that was my place. And in the middle of the night, I opened my eyes and I saw the full body apparition of my grandfather standing behind there. And he was a large dude. And I remember him from when he was living, but he also passed when I was 6. So it had been a long time. And he was leaning over me, and just his sheer presence freaked me out to the core. Now, for the rest of the trip, I slept in between my mother and father as a 14-year-old girl. It was a little crazy.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, that sounds similar to something like that happened to me and my brother.
Yeah, and it was around the time that I started to open up a bunch, I think. And I had no idea what was happening or going on, and people think you're crazy. And back then, it wasn't like as it is now, where you can talk about these things. People are just like, all right, I think you need some help. And no. So I didn't talk about it. I shut it off, and I closed it off for a long time. But that was when I had started opening up and started traveling and all that fun stuff.
Oh yeah, your astral travels. Those are pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Eventually touch base.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to share. My girls share a room, a very large room. And there's a lot of spirit in there. The grandparents are in that room with them, and spirit. And they touch Abby a lot, or they whisper in her ear a lot. So I've had to teach her how to let the boundaries on that. Eleanor just sleeps with her swords and her throwing knives.
She's the ninja.
Get her some obsidian. I'll get her an obsidian knife, right? Selenite knife.
I know.
Yeah, I like selenite because it keeps like the good energies put, but it keeps the bad ones out.
I can't hear. My granddaughter would come out with some names that there was no way she knew, and I was going to touch base on Nicole saying that. Well, two things actually, and then I want to get back to Heidi had two questions, and I missed the first one. Nicole had said she couldn't talk about who she was or what she saw because of the what people would think. I've been over the last, I want to say 4 years, meeting a lot of very awakened between like 15 and like 25 or 30.
Me too. It's so different now. They can just share.
It's trendy. It's trendy to be spiritual, to live in this world. They want it so bad, and they can have it. It's there. It's just, it's trending right now. So that's why they're in on it. They want it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, social media allows people to find like-minded individuals.
I can't, this one girl, her mother actually thought she was schizophrenic. And I started to meet with her, and because you do have to differentiate these things. And she wasn't schizophrenic. She was just very awakened. I had, just to touch base on this, I had gotten a call from the Yale School of Psychology to take part in a test, a group of tests where they auditory and visual hallucinations, and people that didn't, that were considered mediums or whatever, like we do. And they did an EEG of my brain. They did a couple MRIs of my brain where I would answer questions. It was very, very, very interesting. At the end, though, they gave me, and then they called me back twice after that, and I just couldn't sit in that MRI thing. But it was interesting. I had gone 3 times, and they gave me a questionnaire at the end. Colleen was talking about aliens. So they give me this questionnaire. It has nothing to, maybe one question had to do with gifted abilities. The rest was everything some people would consider conspiracy theories. Do I believe that our government works with aliens? Do I believe that the technology jump over the last couple whatever years is due to us interacting with a higher intelligence? I'm like, what does this have to do with and I just thought that was really, really interesting because the questions got more and more, off topic, on topic, but off topic.
Yeah. Because they're there. It's there for a reason. They're asking for a reason because I think it all does go hand in hand. It's just what level of conspiracy, because they're not all just conspiracies, do you want to tap into? Because they're very real. It's just what level do you want to get into? And that's why I always told Heidi, just be mindful, just open up to it. It sounds a little weird, and then they started showing her. So boom, there's your validation.
Yeah. I started to get into the Lemurians a lot. The Lemurians.
Oh, yeah. Talk about it.
Lemurians, yeah. Very interesting culture. People.
They predated the Atlanteans.
Well, the Atlanteans actually were in the Atlantic, and the Lemurians were in the Pacific. And some people say that Hawaii, it's a theory, Hawaii is actually a part of Atlantis.
I believe that. I had a teacher
or Lemuria
who was teaching about Saint Germain and the Violet Flame, and she said she felt compelled to travel to Hawaii, and there was something there, and she felt like she's Lemurian, I believe.
I do too. I don't care what people think. I have a connection to Lamaria big time.
Yeah, that's what she said. And she has like light colored eyes. Like I don't know when she starts to, because she channels. It's cool.
Yeah.
But her eyes, like they glow in this certain way when she starts to do what she is
That's
put here to
badass.
do. It's really cool though. So yeah, I think that's validation for you because she literally said Hawaii. It was something in Hawaii.
I want to go there so bad just to like ground and meditate. You know, I would love to go to some ancient Mayan places too and just sit there like somebody say something, you know?
I had a dream for you guys. So the other night, or are we done talking about paranormal or can I go into this ancient dream, Mark?
We can go into it, but we're done.
It's actually quite beautiful. So I don't know if this is a real place. I don't know, but I kept seeing like all these different flags, and I was traveling with some lady that I see on social media, but I do not know her. So I know
this might be a prophecy.
So I know that we were traveling together, like what Nicole does, because this was very real. It felt real. We were seeing these beautiful mountains. So we go into this cave, and it opens up, and it's like this ancient-looking like bookstore or something. And these goddesses come out, and I don't know why. Hindu, Indian. I don't know the correct name for this goddess, but like she came out and they had beautiful like rings dangling, and they were doing these dances, and they had the veils, beautiful colors. And then an African one came out. These women were tall, beautiful goddesses, like dark, beautiful skin. Their hair was shiny, healthy. Beautiful. Wow. You could tell they were from a higher vibration. Right. Beautifully dressed. They said, "We want to perform for you, Colleen. It's like an activation." And me and the lady looked at each other, and I was like, "Is this real?" And they were doing the most beautiful dance, and there was a crowd and everything, and hummingbirds were flying everywhere. Oh, beautiful. Hummingbirds are my birds. So I was like, oh my, it was so beautiful, but very ancient. And these women were higher beings, like beautiful women. I've never seen women this beautiful, tall, just beautiful women.
What a great dream.
Yeah, it really was.
It wasn't a dream. You traveled somewhere, actually.
Yes. I kept hearing Mount Shista or Shiva or can I touch base on this quick? One time I was in deep meditation. I'll make it quick. I was in deep meditation where we used to live. Where we used to live in Woodbridge, I found every kind of fae. All my clear quartz crystals are mine. Like I didn't have to buy any, right? Yeah. I'm meditating one day and I lay down on the bed, and all of a sudden in my meditation, I see this beautiful woman go like this on my knees, and she's got her knees out this way. So she's like this on my knees. And she starts talking to me and she says, "Michelle, don't worry. Everything's going to be okay." And then I was laying on the bed. All of a sudden, I see dark green and gold. Ever see the Matrix computer image of someone with just the lines? Mark, you guys know what I'm talking about? Mm-hmm. That's what. Oh, yeah. All of a sudden, I see that. I'm just all lines. But all the lines are dark green with gold in the middle. They were Hindu with sigils, right? And I said, "Oh my God!" I asked her. I said, because when she said it in my body, from the tip of my toes to the top of my head, and I said, she literally chuckled at me and said, "No." And I said, "What's your name?" And she said, "I have many names." It was Shiva. I found out after.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, dreams are definitely, they're like gateways. They're like gateways to, I feel like, past lives. It's like your subconscious's way of kind of preparing you for things to come. It's like multifaceted. It's not just one thing or the other. Dreams are like it's almost like a television. Like you get to change the channel, and it's teaching you all kinds of different things. I had a dream years back, and I didn't realize it at the time what it was, but a couple of years afterwards, it totally just dawned on me, and I was like shocked. I was on this mountain, and it was very futuristic. It was like a base, imagine like an airport at the top of a mountain, and it was built like a platform that kind of went around it. And this was no small mountain; it was like a Himalayan kind of size mountain. It was massive. And I'm up there, and I see all these futuristic planes and like
Wow.
craft all around me, and everybody's like panicking and like running around like crazy. And in this dream, it's like I'm seeing it from my own eyes, and I'm looking around and I'm looking for somebody in particular, like, it could have been a friend or a sibling or a partner. I was looking for somebody. I never found them, because I remember like looking in between these two craft, and I was like desperately searching, and I knew I had to leave, but I didn't know why. And then all of a sudden I look in the horizon and I see this gigantic wave, like bigger than the mountain I was on, and it was like
I
coming
missed it.
straight for where I was standing. And that's why everybody was freaking out and trying to like get the hell out of Dodge. And then of course, like that wave kept getting closer and closer. And then when it hit is when I woke up. And I was like so confused. It was intense. But it was a couple of years later, after I started getting into past life regressions, and I had a couple of those experiences, is when it dawned on me, I'm like, holy shit, what if that was a dream, but it was actually just like a past life regression of, I could have been alive during Atlantis, like many people could have. All of us here, Lemuria or Atlantis.
I think everybody that connects in this lifetime, we're all meant to connect in this lifetime. We're all meant to be here now for this great awakening to do what we need to do. But I also believe that some of us come from the same places, wherever that place may be, the same homes.
Like a soul group.
Your soul group, your tribe, right? But we're one big tribe comprised of possibly from different parts of wherever. I grew up in rural
Absolutely. You meet everybody who you're meant to be with.
Absolutely. I grew up in rural Trumbull, and it was very rural when I was little. So I'm talking about, I was 4 in 66, 69, 70, 71, 72. So our dining room's out here. And I remember a craft used to come between the houses. And I even remember the etchings on the side. I still draw those etchings to this day. Cool. And we live near the big what do they call them? The energy towers that hook. We were on the Huntington Monroe Trumbull border.
Power lines.
Power lines. Thank you. So I remember I used to see out my grandmother's dining room window this light coming from over the hill, and my heart would sink. Like I would get so afraid, and I would run down the hall in my room, and the light would get brighter and brighter and brighter, and I'd go back in my closet, and I would it would get so bright, and I would black out. And then I remember one day awake, and I remember thinking to myself, they left me in the grass next to the neighbor's fence, and I was upset because the dew of the grass was wet. And as soon as I had that thought, like, I don't know how much longer, I was in my room. But the weird thing is, when I got up, and I was a little kid, I went to use the bathroom, and my pajamas were on backwards. And then one time, I remember, I don't know, I didn't know about ships and stuff back then. This thing was mammoth between the houses. It lit up the whole town of Trumbull. This thing was massive. So I do remember those experiences from being a little girl. And I do remember that I had Indian spirit guides. I was in the woods by myself all the time as a child, all the time. I spent most of my time in the deep, thick woods. And I did have 2 Indian spirit guides that revealed themselves to me as I got older in life. So.
Ooh, you said something that kind of got something triggered in my head.
It's an interesting place. I think there's very.
Oh, sorry. Sometimes when you delay, I thought you were pausing.
No, the computer freezes.
Have you heard of I don't know if the rest of you, Heidi, Colleen, and Nicole, I don't know if you guys have heard of it. I'm pretty sure Michelle has. And I just want to bring this up because this is one of the most infamous places, not just in Connecticut, but probably in the nation when it comes to like paranormal activity. Have you ever heard of Dudleytown?
I know quite a few people. You can't get in there now.
You can't get in there. So just for anybody who happens to watch this,
They don't
Dudleytown,
let you in unless you go the back way.
yeah,
They took pictures.
it's essentially it's essentially like a spot out. So it's just some random spot in the woods now, right? So it used to be a town, and nobody knows what happened there. Nobody knows like what's causing all this shit to happen. It has one of the most like demonic presences you could think of. It's really bad there. So animals like the people who have been there recently, there's no fucking animals there, like at all. It is like dead silence in the place. People always have that feeling of being watched. Some people even say they've seen things out there, but the crazy stuff is vehicles break down. So like you used to be able to like drive somewhat close there and you would park your car. Vehicles would just stop working flat out. It got to the point where the police officers would have to get called out all the time. The state made a decision to basically make it, you can't get there anymore. I don't know if they demolished the buildings, but if you look up Dudleytown, it's probably like, it's known as one of the most evil places in the nation.
Do you know if they used to like burn, like if they burnt down the town or somebody was burning?
I don't know if anybody can hear me.
We can hear you.
Now we can, yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Colleen. It froze. Back when I was about 16, which was a long time ago, I know someone that actually went camping up in Dudleytown. They were able to get in there. And back then, you took pictures. You had to take pictures and wait a week for them to come back. They came back with Native Americans behind them.
Wow.
Oh, really? That makes sense.
The indigenous.
They just wanted the hell out of there.
I personally believed by the indigenous. And when Dudleytown came, the indigenous had gone through so much. They were like, listen, this is us. And I don't know if they got ill. There's a place like that in Trumbull as well that we call Dracula Drive. And there's all old foundations of homes. And I know somebody that went up there in the middle of the night and took pictures. In the orbs, she got so many orbs. In the orbs, you could see like in the orbs, faces like a man with a hat. And caught my eye. It was pink. So I zoom in on it, and it's a baby. It looked like a painting, like someone took a painting. It was a baby girl, like with the curly blonde hair. But so many of the orbs had faces in them, and it was very interesting. So that is up in Trumbull with the old foundations is very interesting. Dudleytown is like, yeah, I really think the indigenous just don't want anybody in there.
You got to look it up. If you haven't heard of it, the rest of you got to look up Dudleytown. It's crazy.
Maybe.
One of these days, I wouldn't mind going and check it out.
There's a Stonehenge.
Michelle.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Heidi.
Michelle, what is the connection with you with red roses, especially with thorns? And also when I saw the angel, she had flowers like daisies or Gerber daisies. So do you have some type of connection with any of that?
Yeah, huge. Gerber daisies are my youngest daughter's favorite flower.
Okay.
First of all, roses, red roses and dark pink roses are one of my favorite. And for Mother's Day, my daughter just bought me, my oldest one, a beautiful bouquet of flowers, and my youngest one and my granddaughter just planted their Gerber daisies for summer. But this is, it goes deeper than that, and I don't want to elaborate more, but that is hugely significant to me and means a real lot to me.
I almost feel like if you could plant a beautiful rose bush with thorns and everything in your home, you would. And I don't know.
I would. I had one. I had a beautiful rose bush, and unfortunately it was huge, and unfortunately, and it had the thorns, and unfortunately I had to move. I'm a huge gardener. I did plant a lilac bush for each of my grandchildren when they were born. They're up at my daughter's
So the female angel, I'm feeling
House,
like
and
angel. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I do. Oh, go ahead, Heidi. Go
No,
ahead.
I just kind of feel like it's either Archangel Gabriel or Archangel Jophiel who's really present with you due to the children and everything. So anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. So
Gabrielle would make sense with the messages, and Jophiel with helping me to see the beauty that surrounds me. So that really makes good sense. Thank you so much.
you're very welcome.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good. No,
Yeah,
good.
I appreciate that. I know you had questions before, and I
am very interested in.
didn't hear the first or second one.
Yeah, I'm very interested in two things. Number one is just out of curiosity. The second is for our audience. Number one, how do you ensure that nothing follows you home? Because you do so many investigations, and I do hear from investigators that things can follow them home. So I'm wondering what you do to ensure that doesn't happen. And then secondly, what suggestions you have for the audience so negativity or any negative energies do not try to attach to them. Those are my two questions.
Okay, so the answer to the first question, I take the team and I say a prayer over the team. There are important words: consent, authorization, permission. So when you're incorporating a prayer in, you say, you do not have consent, authorization, or permission to follow me, Mark, this one, that one. There's no consent given. You cannot do that. You do, and then I use a specific set of prayers. I cover, then on leaving, I stand before I exit the actual border of where the property ends, and I say, this is where we leave you. This is where we end. And I repeat that no consent, no authorization. And I always send, even if it's something that's malevolent, slightly malevolent, and angry earthbound or whatever, or not, I always send everything off. And here's an important word: truth. The true forgiveness, the truth of joy. And those are all higher vibrational frequency words as well. And I say, if you need help, we'll be back, but you absolutely cannot follow. And to my knowledge, I've never been followed. I know Joe's not here. I don't want to speak for Joe, but I know that he did have a little girl follow him. Was with him for many years, but she was she was comfortable. Not little. She was
younger.
A bit older than, honestly, this is what I picked up from him. Him and his wife are great. They have a loving, tight-knit family, and I think she didn't. And they camp a lot, so I don't know if he picked her up on an investigation or camping. She felt warm and safe with them. She wasn't a threat. And he had asked me to come cross her. And the last time I spoke to him, he said he hasn't seen her in a while. So she may have elevated up. Your second question, how people can, it's really not difficult. Again, I take it all to frequency. So whatever you believe in, whatever your belief system, if it's nature, if it's Jesus, if it's whatever, say your prayers, do your mantras daily, listen to higher vibrational music, watch the words that you speak, because what you speak and what you feel creates your reality as well. Doesn't even register in megahertz. That's how lower vibrational it is. Then anger comes above that. Okay? Low.
Yeah.
The highest one you would think is unconditional love, but it's actually knowledge or wisdom, and then love, and then forgiveness. Food, meat registers at 3 megahertz. Raw vegetables register at 70. So if you're angry, jealous, in an unhealthy relationship, all those things will contribute to lowering your vibration. Even if you go to bed at night and everything's cool, in your heart of hearts, you're not at peace, you're not settled. So I think to keep a good vibrational frequency, if you have singing bowls, play them. Frankincense and myrrh is great to burn, right? Listening to upbeat music.
Yeah, I'll do that often in the
I
car.
listen to I listen to all kinds of music, but sometimes I'll put on like that. And saying,
I'll be in the car, and if it's like, if I'm in a mood, I want to be bright, I want to be lifted up, and I don't want to be like, let's say I'm in a bad mood, and some metal song will come on, which I would normally like, but I'll sit there and I'll skip it and try to find something more upbeat, especially if I'm feeling low.
Me too. And another important thing, and I cannot leave this out, always, and this is just a suggestion I give to everybody, no matter what your situation is, somebody else has it much worse than you. Count your blessings every day. Be grateful. Say thank you. If your car is not running great, be grateful you have a car. Say thank you for my car. Thank you for the roof over my head. Thank you for absolutely everything, because there are some people out there that would love to just have a roof over their head or be able to take a hot shower. So gratitude is one thing. Appreciation is another. And appreciation and thanks for all the blessings bestowed upon you and yours, seen and unseen. That will keep the vibe high too. The creator or God, however anyone their perception, loves the universe. Let's just say, for conversation's sake, the universe loves to hear that and delivers back to us what we're speaking, what we're feeling, and what we're saying.
That's very true. That's very, very true. Sometimes
awesome.
we need to be reminded that. So thank you.
Saying I love you, leaving little notes. Oh, you're welcome.
That's great.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to try to keep tonight's session to about 2 hours, because I know it's getting late, and some of us have to get up early. But before we conclude, I just wanted to take a few minutes to do like a teaser for our investigation that we have coming up here in the next couple of weeks over in New Haven.
This is the meat and potatoes investigation.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be nuts. So there's a guy I've known for a long time. He's a good friend of mine. He got remarried probably like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago. So his current wife, her ex-husband, had died in this home that we're going to be going to investigate. And all this stuff has been happening there forever, right? But he never told me. He knows I'm into all this weird shit, and he never told me that all this is happening. So he calls me up a couple weeks ago, basically saying like, Mark, you got to come check out this house. It's pretty wild, and there's all this crazy shit happening. It all started with a bell. They've been in the house recently. It's a 3-story home. There's 3 different families. Like basically, the third floor is its own unit, the second floor is its own unit, and the first floor. And they found this like bell up on the 3rd floor, and there's only 3 of them in the house. So they walk downstairs and they're showing like, oh, where's this bell? Where did this come from? Who owned this? And nobody knew. So they're ringing it, and then they put it down on the table, and they went back to doing what they were doing. They're clearing a bunch of like toys out. I guess one of the sons wanted the test trucks or something. So they're clearing stuff out, and no one's near the bell, and the bell starts ringing by itself.
Oh,
so that's
no.
That's what triggered all of it. And so they're calling me, freaking out about this bell. And I start asking questions on the phone, and then he's like, oh, well, the house used to be a funeral parlor.
Oh,
I'm like,
God.
well, there you go. Yeah, and it gets better. It gets better.
Oh, it gets better.
And then it gets better. There's 2 nuns that used to live.
Right?
Yeah, there used to be 2 nuns that lived in the 3rd floor. So funeral home, check. 2 ghost nuns, or there's 1. So people who have lived there in the past have reported seeing a nun in the house. This is like after the ladies probably moved out or passed away or whatever, but somebody had reported seeing a nun. People have seen specters of smoke or mist. People have seen full body apparitions, and many people have been in and out of the house a lot of them saying like they couldn't stay there because they were feeling the presence of some crazy shit. And not to mention the guy who died there. I mean, there's some circumstances there I don't want to get into on this live, but the guy passed away there, and the family has every reason to believe that something was affecting him, that was in that house with him. So this is going to be a really, really exciting investigation. I'm going to be going out there with Michelle, Joe, our friend Diane, who's watching. She'll be joining us, and then my brother. He doesn't want to miss out on this either, so he's going to come join us. And what I'm going to do is I'll try to get like a video out for everybody with all the evidence we have thus far. And then when we get to the actual site for the investigation, I'm planning on going live for about 45 minutes or an hour and kind of sharing what an actual investigation looks like. We're going to go through the house. We're going to try to set up cameras in different areas strategically that we anticipate getting a lot of activity in. And we're going to do our best to get a ghost done.
I have a question about that.
What's that?
So like if you go live and you're in this house and there's active activity, can somebody who's watching pick up on that dark energy? Can it attach?
I don't think it's going to attach through the phone. Like if I'm live streaming, I don't think it's going to attach to anybody that way. I will say this though, and anything can happen. These energies do have quite the control or manipulation over electronic devices and whatnot. So, I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I will say it's very unlikely. I think you're much more likely to get a stage 5 clinger, like if you're there in person, doing the investigation yourself, especially if you go in unprotected.
I feel that these energies are stationary, so they're not going to come out through. And I was given a really great piece of advice by Ed Warren's grandson. If you have any paranormal evidence or anything on your phone, like I have tons, and it was just, we can do that some other time. They're interesting. He said to put everything in my cloud and not to leave it on my phone. So if anyone's listening, if you have paranormal evidence or EVPs or whatever, it's best if you store them on your iCloud. And
I keep everything on a hard drive. I got like a solid state hard drive, and it's like a terabyte or 2 or whatever. And I keep everything, all my videos, evidence, everything on this hard drive that's not connected to anything. It's a pain in the neck to transfer everything, but at least it's in one central location.
I go through phones like
You know what that reminds me of, Mark? It reminds me of Ghostbusters, where they put all the ghosts in that box.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Wait, which professor had ghosts in a box?
No. In Ghostbusters, remember in Ghostbusters they put all the ghosts in that one area.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a name for one of those things, a ghost trap or something like that. I should know. I'm a big ghost fan.
I can see the protective crystals around your little drive there.
Oh yeah, you better believe, ghost nun or not, I'm going in this place fully protected. I'm going to be wearing my Moldavite Jesus.
Hey, wait.
I'm going to have selenite dagger. I'm going to be ready to rock.
Was that Raggedy Ann doll really possessed? Because my husband went into a house the other day and they had 2 big ass Raggedy Ann dolls, and I was like, buy one. Wait, I said buy it and we'll scare the kids. They like scary movies. They like that shit. So I'm like, buy, because we like to trick each other. I bought a Chucky doll, put it on our porch one time, scared the shit out of my husband because he didn't see none of us out there. So I'm like, Annabelle, imagine Annabelle. But he said he went back to the house and the old lady.
No.
Annabelle, the whole situation with Annabelle, the movies were like completely Hollywood.
Yeah, of course. But imagine seeing that and you just watch the movie and you know it's Raggedy Ann.
But the true story
is creepy to me, and I don't get creeped out. I don't like dolls. I have a couple cool ones, but
they hate dolls. These kids, my husband, they hate dolls. Chucky, anything. I'm like, you could kick it. It's a doll.
Remember I told you my best friend had that picture set, and we had to go see Ed. At the time, her daughter was very little, and we lived with a big guy, whatever. One day he comes booking out of the house. I said, so-and-so, what's the matter? He's like, dude, you didn't see those Barbie dolls? I'm like, no, I didn't. And he just went into his car, and he was gone. I think it depends on the person. They're so vast and varied in degree, and they're, like I said, they're not always worst case scenario. They're not always malevolent, something that was never human. Sometimes they're earthbound. Sometimes whoever we are now is who we are when we pass. That doesn't change. I don't understand why. I don't know how it works as many conversations as I've had. I literally understand why some choose to stay close, and then some go. And like, I know my mother will swoop in and see me, and my grandmother and my grandfather. It was a great confirmation. And then it seems like they go back. Like, I had a dream about my mother, and she said, and she actually came with my best friend. And I said, you guys did something wrong. They scared me. They were in my kitchen. I'm like, you guys, because that's how they were. I said, you guys aren't supposed to hear. What did you do?
So
what did you do? Because you're not supposed to be here right now. And they're like, don't worry. They go back. She said they were working and everything was fine. I don't know. There's different realities.
Michelle, I keep seeing a youngish woman with like a striped t-shirt on and like an old Datsun car or something. She's got like shoulder length hair. Does that ring a bell? I keep seeing this. It's like an old friend or something. It's interesting.
Ooh, hey, really quick,
that before might be my best friend that passed that you're talking about. That might Datsun.
It's like an old
anyway, going back 30-some cents.
Yeah.
It does. It could be her.
Interesting.
I lost so many people. Yeah, she comes in and out, and her daughter's like a daughter to me, so we're very close. And as a matter of fact, I was over her daughter's house the other day, who was like a daughter to me, and actually had my EVP thing on, and her name came through. Wow. Her name came through perfectly. Yeah, it was nice to know she was there.
That's cool.
All right, you guys, I'm just going to say goodbye really quick. So, Michelle, thank you. Mark,
thank you.
Thanks, Nicole.
See you guys soon.
Guys, I'm on Essence of Angels on Facebook and Nuntium 888 on Instagram. Check me out. I'd love to get in touch with you all. You're wonderful. Heidi, it was a pleasure. Colleen,
nice to meet you, Michelle. Yeah.
Yep. This is a great time. So we'll be doing more of these
as well. I hope we speak.
We'll definitely be doing more of these in the future. Tonight, of course, was all about paranormal investigations. But as we, have cases that come up and people who invite us, to their homes or wherever, we'll certainly give updates. And we can look forward to having more discussion sessions on other topics as well. I think we'll be tackling aliens and UFOs here pretty soon.
That would be cool.
Awesome.
That would be cool.
We'll get to it, but thank you. We're about 2 minutes over 2 hours, which ain't bad. I had a lot of fun tonight. Thank you for everybody who joined us, and thank you for everybody who watches this video in the future. And all right.
Well, peace and love and blessings to everyone.
Everybody.
Good night. Good night. Thank you.